So here we are again. What can we do to take meaningful climate action as the climate clock keeps ticking down? The one thing that brings it home is the idea of health and wellness. A lot of people, we kind of isolate, we look at climate change and we only think about climate, but what's the impact on the health and wellness? So Sondra, this is Art Johnson, and welcome, by the way, to another conversation for 21st Century World. I'm Art Johnson, and
Sondra Earley here.
Talk about that.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Art. Climate change is, in my opinion and many opinions, one of the biggest global health threats of the 21st century. So we have lots of folks that are talking about climate change. We have been listening to Greta. She's a great advocate. I wish I could say it as good as she does. We have Jeremy Rifkin. We have Naomi Klein, who talks about it. But it really is one of the most serious impacts on health in the universe. The effects of climate change on health will affect every population for the next decade in the entire world. We're talking about billions of people being affected, more disease. A lot of this is the result, I'd say most of it is the result of all of the man-made impacts that we have created on the Earth's surface, including high temperatures. You see effects of flooding. We have lots of different threats that are going on here. Disease is on the rise. We have impacts on the water and the food and the shelter of not only the humans, but also our animals. So we're on the brink of extinction in a lot of different aspects. So what is the good of this disruption that we've been talking about? A lot of good has to do with the fact that people are becoming more aware. Who's the impact going to affect the most? It's the elderly and the children. So the infants and the elderly will obviously catch most of the impacts, along with our favored animals. Some of those will be extinct just because of this climate change.
They're coming extinct now, even. Some of them,
we're
meeting so many
now.
Species every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
And just looking at the news, we know that there's tremendous fires out in Australia, and hundreds of thousands of impacts on the animals that are now dying, and ultimately the impacts on the humans. I know that we can't cover it all in one segment, but we are reaching out to folks who are experts in the area, and we're developing conversations with those folks. And you stay tuned, you'll see more of that here. Let's talk about locally. So in program 7, we talked about what we could do now, but it's like what all of us can do. So we are not waiting on our politicians. We're not waiting on our local, state, United States representative. This is the whole world that has to become involved in the well-being of the humans. It's a multidisciplinary approach that we should be taking as well. So let's talk about what kind of policies we have to adopt to make sure that we can increase education, awareness for what you can do and how you can be involved in this. Let's talk about the action that has to be taken that links all of these events, because it's not just climate change, it's everything that we're experiencing today. We need to engage the appropriate health systems in taking a look at this and effecting change and disrupting what we currently have. Okay. We blame a lot of it on fossil fuels, and we're talking about getting rid of that. But then there's also every other aspect of change you can think about. Art, did you have a comment?
Well, yeah, I was listening to you because the pushback that we are experiencing, I was watching some Trevor Noah and, talking about this, and some of the, the resistant political people are saying, hey, are you trying to take away our hamburgers? Are you saying we can't, they're just really making it a very obscene kind of a thing and very ignorant. You mean I can't have any ice cream anymore? And you say that cows are farting, and because the cow's farting, that, that's the earth is going, to the handbasket and all that.
Right.
So there's a lot of very, very sinister criticism towards what is starting to evolve as a kind of a solution, a Green New Deal, okay?
Right.
A lot of people don't realize, though, because all of us weren't around when that happened, America was truly in crisis during Roosevelt's time. There was a Great Depression, okay?
Right.
And no one could make any money, and even the corporations couldn't make any money. Okay, so when Roosevelt came, he said, well, what do you want? Do you want to lose everything and have a basically, and 1917 just happened in Russia. Do you want to have a revolution like you would never have before here in this country if you don't make some concessions, if you don't give up some of your revenue? And if we don't, start working together to essentially raise the tax base on the very rich. That's what happened at that time. And during that time, they just continually push this down, push labor rights down, and we now have this 2% that owns most of the world's earth. Okay, right. You're not going to have any kind of a change until you have major crisis and major disruption. But the good news is that people, when they finally realize that they got to work together, then they start working together, and then they make concessions to have things happen. It doesn't stay that way, and it's a continual struggle. But I think that's what's going to happen for people to get on the same page. You got deniers right now.
Right.
You got a president who has, full of lies. I'm sorry, but just full of lies and lie upon lie. And that's catching up with him right now. And even though the Senate may say, well, yeah, but we can't afford to lose him because of the politics and all that, people are watching. And if you cannot solve this, if you're going to have major crises and the government is not going to take care of people as those crises because, the government's out of money, then what you have is a collapse of business. Business cannot operate as usual, okay? Now, when business can't operate as usual, then there you go. Now you're going to start to see some changes, okay? I mean, you're going to see some monumental changes where the government says, we had bailout before, right? Oh, they're so rich and, with this meltdown and do that, during the recession, and we had to bail out these banks, making all this money and stuff. And right now we have, Greta talked about, everybody's talking about climate data, but they never even include the cost of aviation. How much pollution is coming from aviation and how much pollution is coming from transportation, okay? Now, you and I are meeting inside of virtual architecture, okay? And people don't have to drive here to get there. All they have to do is log on, okay, from all over the world, okay? Instantly. Zero carbon footprint. Why not, do a major initiative to get people to embrace a smarter way of doing business, a smarter way of doing work? we can actually create jobs for disabled people working from home. If they can log in, they can be an active participant. They can have we can have meaningful work. You know, we could actually upcycle people to think differently about, you know, retirement even. Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm really, really excited about crisis. You know, I'm not a
It's an
crisis
opportunity.
generator, but I do
Right.
see the seed of change when you get to that certain tipping point. Okay. And it so happens that there are front-running people. There are some people that are saying all you need is 10% of the people to realize, who are smart and are working together. And we're talking about not just black people working with black people, or this age group working just with the age group. We all have to come work across generations and across cultures across the planet. Okay.
Right.
And
Exactly.
the good news is we're called to do it, and we got resources that can do that. We can go there in a hot minute.
Okay. That's correct.
So
So, yeah, I like what you said about just focusing, underlining for a second about intergenerational change and education and awareness. You know,
yeah,
we all need to be working on this because it will affect all of the community of life.
yeah. I just found a really, really good book on audible.com called Successful Aging. You know, it's
Yeah,
not just us who age, everybody ages, but we need
that
to
is
come
correct.
of age from an intellectual and an understanding of all the benefits. I mean, you know, I've been on the planet for 73 years, right? So I've
Right.
learned a few things,
Yep.
and I continue to be a
Exactly.
lifelong learner. And I respect what the young people come to, okay? But I
Right.
remember way, way back when I was 24, I didn't want to hear from anyone who was over 30, you know?
Exactly. Right.
But, you know, now that I've grown, you know, wiser, and, you know, some things, you know, got older, you know, and I don't quite move as fast. But, you know, I've been through so many crises. I think that people can have a wise approach, you know,
Hmm.
listening to young Greta and listening to that, but integrating all the achievements that we're making. So whether we're working in the system, you know, or against the system or around the system, we all can make a contribution to the survival of the biosphere. That's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Not just make America great again, or,
For
you
sure.
know, blah, 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 or just Brexit here and Brexit there, or, you know, we're talking about a biosphere consciousness. We're talking about one species life on the planet.
Exactly.
Okay, we don't have separate environments. We're breathing the same air. So what happens in China blows over here, and what
That's right.
happened in British Columbia with all their fires came to us, and we finally got to cough. We finally got to have our asthma really be fired up because we had nothing but gray sky. That was an emotional moment for me. It was a good thing, yeah, at
Right.
least from a standpoint of realizing, hey, it's here right now.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And we're here right now, and we can do something about it still.
We
So
can. We
yeah,
can.
yeah,
And there is hope. I mean, it's not
yeah,
always the bad story, the
yeah,
bad story. You know, there is hope for all of us,
yeah.
and we all need to get together and be a little more humane about this and look at the short and the long-term issues associated with this.
And there's
So,
this whole thing of this whole holistic urge,
right,
evolutionary urge.
exactly.
I do believe that consciousness still is evolving. Okay, and if
Always.
you look at there at the evolutionary cycle, there are things you just can't explain. Okay, that
Hmm.
where there are quantum leaps of change that can happen. Okay,
Absolutely.
and so, you know, on the one hand, there's a linear approach that has to do with the law of cause and effect, but there's also spontaneous change that is divine in nature, that we have to, you know, have a further study of our conscious universe.
Right.
We're not just the only thing alive. The whole universe is alive, and we have to
Exactly.
learn how to use those laws and how to create the harmony of the planets, in the harmony of our lives. We have to, you know, reassess walking in the woods and what that's good for us, you know,
Right.
and learn
Exactly.
from that. So I just think that, you know, this is a wonderful, the world is our classroom here, and it's still
Mhm.
evolving. And, you know, we need to be open to these changes, and good news. You know, the native tribes have had to live this for a while. And so everybody is worth it. Everybody
I
matters.
agree. I agree.
All right, well,
I
listen,
will
we got to
agree.
go. You know,
All
we can
right.
go ramble on and on and on, but
Yes, we could.
this is good. But thank you, people. People, come on, be our show. Give us a call. We need to hear from you, and give us a call, because we know that if you something on your mind, or maybe you're affiliated with a group. It could be a climate organization, it could be a faith-based organization, it could be even a conservative one, or, you know, ultra progressive one. We don't care, as long as you're doing good, meaningful good. Okay.
Meaningful good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, I will see you all. Take it
All righty.
easy.
Take care.
All
All
right. Be
righty.
good.
Thanks, Art.
I'll see you.
Have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye.